Psycho here. I'm playing Shroud of the Avatar today. This is an early access game by Lord British and the spiritual successor to Ultima Online. So today I'm going to go through and show people how to use the skills and the decks in this game because it could be quite difficult to understand when you're a new player or you're used to playing those theme parks out there like World of Warcraft. This is not an easy game to start up, so I'm just going to kind of give you a leg up and give you an understanding of the skills, and hopefully I explain it well enough for you to understand. So when you come in here, I'm going to start, and I'm going to teach you how to use the skills, and I'm going to teach you how to use the decks properly. So here we go. So when you are out killing monsters, what it does is it adds experience to your experience pool. Now, that experience pool is what's being used when you use an ability. So basically, if I were to turn this into green, that means when I'm out using a polearm, that means that this passive ability, which is the gray border here, is going to gain experience as I'm hitting the mob and using a skill in the tree. So basically, this skill itself is not gaining XP. What it's doing is it is pulling experience from the experience pool. Okay? So if I click that little arrow and it goes to the double red down arrow, what that means is as I'm using other skills, this skill is going to lose experience and put that experience back into my experience pool. Now the reason that this is level 20 is because I don't use polearms anymore. And once it's level 20, you need level 20 in order to open up these next row of skills. So what that means is this skill will never go below 20. So that means all the experience I gained into it up to level 20, I will never get back, and that skill stays at level 20. Now when it comes to this, in order to get the next skill, it's level 40. So this skill itself will never go below 40, which means from level 1 to 40, all that experience that I gained into that ability, I will never get back into my experience pool. So that kind of gives you an idea of, you probably want to figure out along the lines of what you want to do before you go out and adventure and gain experience, because you don't want to waste any of that experience, because that experience is precious and hard to get in this game. So down arrow means you're going to lose experience for using other skills and abilities. Even if I were to go out and I were to use polearm right now, and this was a down arrow and this was above level 20, I would actually lose experience in this skill because of the down arrow, even if I'm using a polearm ability. Okay? So if I click it again and it goes to the minus symbol, what that means is it won't gain any experience, but it will lose experience if I die. Okay? It's not gonna, that experience is just gonna go away. I'm not getting it back into my pool. Okay? If I click it again, that arrow is gonna turn orange, and what that means is maintain. So what it's gonna do is it's not gonna gain any experience when I use an ability, but it will not lose experience when I die. What it does is it takes experience from the experience pool and basically adds enough of it to the ability so that I don't lose any levels in the ability. So if I get something to like level 100, which is called GM, and I don't want to gain any more experience in it, because once you get abilities up to those levels, they start taking a lot of experience from your experience pool. So most people kind of cap out at 100 and then move on to something else and try to level it. So we'll do a little recap here. So orange arrow means maintain, which means it will take experience from my experience pool when I die to keep this from de-leveling. If I click it to green, when I go out and I use a polearm, I'm going to take experience from my experience pool and add it to this in order to level it up. So this is going to gain. If I click it again, it's going to red, which means that I'm going to lose experience when I'm out doing combat. No matter what I'm doing, it's going to lose experience and put part of that experience back into my experience pool. Okay? So we are going to put that there, and that's going to be for any one of the abilities. Okay? So the gray border here on the skill, that means that this is a passive ability. So that negative 29.3% damage to polearms, that means that I'm going to be doing that much less damage when I'm doing a normal attack or any of my special attacks with a polearm. And so this is a gray border. This is a passive as well. All these red ones, these are all attack abilities. Okay, these are melee attack abilities. If I go down here to Earth, which I'm no longer using anymore either, again, passives, and reds are attacks. So this is going to be like a magic attack, magic attack, magic attack. And blue means it is a buff. So, and it shows there the times of the buffs and everything. So this is a buff. Green is going to be a heal. And yellow is going to be usually a crowd control of some sort. Something that doesn't do damage, most likely. Okay? So red is attack. Blue is a buff. Gray is a passive. And yellow is a crowd control. And green is a heal. And you'll see that throughout all the abilities here. Okay? So now what I'm going to move on to is the deck. When you look at your deck, you just click on your deck and you click modify. Over here on the left hand side, this is a list of every single ability that you have unlocked in the game. No matter what the skill tree, no matter what. Okay? So as you can see here under lightning, I got that up to level 40. The higher level it goes, the more quantity you get here. Where you see where it says 0 to 4 quantity in the middle there. What that means is that's how many glyphs of that ability that I can put into the deck. This is my deck here. All the abilities I use on my skill bar are in my deck. So when I say deck, that's what this game calls your ability bar, basically. This is your pool of skills to pull from on your ability bar. Okay? So I'm going to explain that a little more. So as you can see here, I have Chain Lightning in here, 4 times. What that means is that's how often that ability is going to pop up in my rotation when I'm fighting. So when it comes down to your bar, you have locked ability slots and you have unlocked ability slots. So basically these skills, and I'll show you here in a second, these skills are going to rotate through on a timer and enable me to use whatever ability pops up without there being a global cooldown. Okay, I'm sure you guys know what global cooldown is by now. Basically, if I were to have this ability right here, see how it's locked. If I go into combat, see how number 5 I have locked. So that means that ability is always going to be on my bar. But if you see the gray circle that's kind of like timing down like a clock, that's the cooldown on that ability. So if I were to use this ability, then what it does is it rotates through all the abilities that I have in that unlocked slot. Okay? So if I were to use this, it opens up the ability for another card to pop in or another glyph to pop into that ability slot. Okay? So I'm going to go back here and then I'll go through some more explaining again. Got to put my weapon away to modify it. Okay? So what I do is I like to put my abilities that don't cost me any regents on my first 4 slots here. Okay? So when I say if I right click on this, which it removes the glyph from the deck. Okay? When I do that, what that does is that makes me have a slug. Now what that means is that a small percentage of the time, when I'm supposed to get an ability in any one of these slots that I have unlocked, I have a possibility of getting a slug. What the slug means is that it does not, it's no ability basically. I have to wait for the full cooldown of that ability in order for another card to come into that deck. Okay? So I don't want any slugs basically because I always want abilities popping up in my unlocked slots. Now, to kind of give you an idea of why you would go some locked and some unlocked, if I were to unlock this ability right now, you see how I have 19 out of 20. If I unlock this ability right here, that adds another glyph I have to put into that slot in order to fill out my deck and not get any slugs. Now what that did when I unlocked it, it actually added that ability to my deck. Now I don't want that because this isn't something I'm going to cast very often. I always want it up so that I can cast it when I need it, but it's not something I cast very often. It's not something I want to just like rapid fire or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to lock it, and it removes it from my deck again. And I'm going to fix this and put discharge again. So now the reason you would want to put like 1 through 4 of an ability in my deck means how often it's going to come up. So if I only have discharge in this slot, that means I'm only going to get discharge up, but it's going to come up more often. If I put discharge and death touch in that slot, and I have 4 of each of those abilities in the deck, when it comes down to numbers, that means 50% of the time I'm going to get discharge, and 50% of the time I'm going to get death touch. Okay, and that's just a percentage based. Okay, if I were to remove 2 of these abilities, 2 death touch from my deck here, and kept the ability slots the same, that means 75% of the time I'm going to get discharge, and 25% of the time I'm going to get death touch. Okay? So I use all these abilities, I use them to spam the hell out of them. And the only reason I have Death Field in that ability is because I'm leveling up that skill, so I just put it in an extra slot so it comes up more often. Because when you have an ability at lower level, you get less glyphs to play with, so it means they're not going to come up as often. Okay? Now over here on the right side, what this does is you can actually pin these and unpin them to where you can get rid of them. But these are the 2 abilities that I'm leveling up right now. So what this does is this kind of just gives me the progress of the experience gains for those abilities. Okay? So other than that, it's actually pretty simple. So if I were to go here, and I don't have anything to fight in this zone because this is my guild city, but when you go through and I hit an ability, I can just sit there and spam them, spam them, spam them. But if I were to have all these abilities locked, then I would only be able to have this ability on 1 slot, and it would be on a cooldown. So if we look at this ability in the deck here, if we go down to Death Touch and look at the way it is, the cooldown is 5 seconds on that. Okay? So what happens there is if I have all the abilities locked on my bar, that only allows me to use that ability once every 5 seconds instead of a chance of using it maybe 10 times in 5 seconds. Okay? So that would be kind of like a differentiation between locking a deck and unlocking a deck. And I use, like I said, I use a combination of locked and unlocked because it just fits my playstyle. Okay? So now another thing I want to go through and explain, because this is something that I had no idea about in the beginning at all until someone randomly told me from my guild. When you're looking at your skills here, I'm gonna use that ability just to get it off my bar here. And when discharge comes up, or if it comes up, I'm gonna show you something here. So I need discharge to come up at multiple occasions here. Now I can click and hold 3 and drag it over to 1, and what it does is it makes a 2 stack there. I can drag it over again, it makes a 3 stack there. And then I think it goes up to 4, up to a 4 stack. Could be wrong. It may just be the way I have my deck, because I have heard people say that that they can take it up to 5. So the bigger the stack, the more damage it's going to do, and the less focus it's going to take from your focus bar. This is your bar that you use basically your energy to use your spells. Your basically your mana. If this were any other game in the world, it'd be mana. Um, so what you want to do is on a deck to if you want to be more conservative and less and just be able to conserve your focus pool, then what you want to do is you want to stack your abilities. You can click and drag, or I can click 3 and hold, and then click 1, and it's going to move that ability over if it was the same ability. So right now I could click 3 and press 1, and it will move it over. I can click 3, press 2, it moves that over. Click 3, press 1, moves that over, and it's pretty simple that way. I can do this, I can do that. Now I have a 4 stack of that, and I could use that and then use that. Okay. So the reason I'm doing this is because it is very confusing, and I hope that I'm explaining it correctly. I know I'm explaining it correctly. I just hope that I'm explaining it smooth enough for you guys and not talking too fast. So this is under Y. You just click on your deck and you modify, and you can move things back and forth here, create your deck. I usually like to keep my glyphs exactly where the abilities are at. So if I have any more than this, what it's going to do is it's going to thin out and make it so I have more abilities on my bar, which is you're more than welcome to do. This is just my current play style. Okay, so I hope I explained that okay. And if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to message me in game under Psycho with a capital S and Co with a capital K. You could also message me on YouTube, and I definitely answer comments down below as well. If you have any constructive criticism or anything to add to the video, please comment down below. And if you want more content, please like and subscribe, and I will continue putting out videos. I got a Rise montage video coming soon. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.